Today I'm on a mission to build one of the best looking gaming PCs I've ever assembled here on the channel. A build with a truly unique aesthetic that spares no cost in a mission to look absolutely phenomenal and provide, of course, fantastic performance too. And in this one, I'll be taking you guys along for the ride, walking through all the parts that I picked and why, the whole build process for this system to see whether it goes smoothly or not. Come on! And of course, looking at how good the build looks later on with those all-important gaming benchmarks. Let's do this. I'm going to begin this build by talking about the CPU and GPU combo because I feel like it perhaps needs a little bit of explanation. Now, when I said this build was sort of a no expense spared, that doesn't necessarily mean that I always went onto Newegg and searched by price high to low, because A, that just doesn't make sense, and B, in the current climate, it's just not very clever. Typically for a build like this, I would have gone for the RTX 4090. However, we're seeing that card sort of start to be discontinued, or at least removed from sale by stealth. Now that presumably is to make way for the 5090, and I would imagine the 4090 has stopped being produced, or that the production has dwindled to such small quantities that that's why you can't really buy one. Now you can still find 4090s on Newegg for well over $2,000, but that doesn't make any sense when you can buy this, the 4080 Super, which is about 7 or 8% slower for about $1,100. This Gigabyte Aero card is also going to look absolutely phenomenal with a full white aesthetic and match the build today perfectly. The CPU is again a similar story. Now I've gone for what is not actually that expensive a processor when you look at the options on the market, but this, the 7800X3D, is the fastest gaming CPU right now, meaning that it makes more sense than just about anything else. In terms of other top of the line options, the 14900KS would be one of such choices. Obviously you're not going to buy that with the upcoming Core Ultra releases, while AMD's new Ryzen 9000 series is no quicker than the X3D chips like this that you'd be better off considering for this build. The other option, of course, would be to go for AMD's new Ryzen 9 9950X, but that makes no sense on the basis it's actually no quicker than this 7800X3D. Now this chip's got 8 cores and 16 threads. That's going to be more than good enough for playing everything from your esports, FPS titles through to AAA games, and of course with AMD's L3 stacked cache, there's nearly 100 meg of cache on this chip. That's more than you'll find on any of the existing Ryzen 9000 lineup. It makes a whole lot of sense for this system. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to go for a brand new motherboard, because I've actually picked up this, which is the brand new Asus X870 gaming Wi-Fi. Now, as far as the white aesthetic of this build is concerned, it doesn't get much better than this. And of course, going for a newer X870 chipset allows us to take advantage of some of the features you might think to be Ryzen 9000 specific, but are actually more based on the chipset. Now, more specifically, that means things like widespread PCI Gen 5 support for NVMEs and GPUs. That's something you'll find on all of the X870 boards, as well as additional USB 4 connectivity that gives up to 40 gigabits of bandwidth, which is actually pretty nuts when you come to think of it. I personally think Asus have done an absolutely phenomenal job as well on the design of this board. There's a few really nice features to point out. That includes this fully toolless and really easy to remove M.2 heatsink and subsequent installation. The I/O, as I say, is also going to be better too. Wi-Fi 7, you've got optical audio, your 40 gigabit USBs. These are actually also Thunderbolt compatible in many respects, which is really good to see. Of course, for a white build like this, I'm also going to need some white memory. This is the XPG Lancer DDR5. Now this is a 6000 mega transfers kit, and I've got two 16 gig times 2 kits. Basically, I've got 64 gigs in total with 4 16 gigabyte DIMMs all told. Nice little RGB diffusion on the top of the heat spreader as well, and a really nice design. I mean, just take a look when I unbox these at how good those RAM DIMMs look. Super clean, super sleek, and perfect for the build today. As far as storage is concerned, following a similar vein, this is the T-Force GE Pro PCI Gen 5. Now this is a 2 terabyte Gen 5 drive. It makes sense with X870 to leverage all the Gen 5 slots. This board's not just got the one, but actually additional Gen 5 NVMe support under the heatsink too. Now this particular drive is going to offer blazing fast speeds, up to 14,000 megabytes per second on the read, and up to 12,000 megabytes per second on the write. The next step is to go ahead and unbox all of course, the memory, getting that ready to be installed, taking the SSD out the box, and opening up the CPU to get all of these popped onto the motherboard at this stage. This is a bit embarrassing. This is the wrong speed and the wrong color. It looks like we'll be installing 2 RAM DIMMs for now while I go and locate where the others have gone and add those back in at the end. I'm going to start off with the CPU, of course, always the first port of call, by lifting up the socket cover, dropping the 7800X3D into place. Going to work out of the box with this X870 board, socket cover down, arm into place, and that's the processor good to go. As far as RAM's concerned, just the 2 clips to unlock for now. The other 2 I'll do later, before of course sliding the RAM into place, bit of pressure on each side. There we go, and that's going to install really nicely. The colour match on this is also superb. NVMe installation on this board is really easy. Push back the plastic clip, lift up the heatsink. It is technically toolless, but I am going to use a screwdriver just to get rid of this protective thermal pad cover. Slide the drive into place, a little something like so. Push it down, and it's going to automatically latch. Before adding back into place the M.2 heatsink, pushing that down, he says, until it latches. And of course, don't forget to do all of the really satisfying peels on the motherboard at this stage as well. And that is looking bloody fantastic. Now, the next stage of the build really is the case, but I am going to take a quick look at the CPU cooler and move all this stuff out the way, just to see if there's any prep that needs to be done for Corsair's H150i LCD. When I say prep, I'm really talking about the prep needed for the CPU socket. Now, this is a really high-end 360mm from Corsair. It uses their IQ Link, so it's basically one cable that goes from all of the fans and from the pump straight into the PC, making the whole thing super clean and super easy to install. Now, inside of the box is some mounting hardware, and it's this AMD bag that we're of course most concerned with in this build. Inside of here, there's a few things to note. We've got these male-to-male screws which are going to go around the socket, and then this frame which is going to install onto the water block. I'm going to begin by popping these around the CPU by removing the black plastic brackets that come pre-installed and popping these in instead. That's really it as far as prep for the cooler goes. This is just going to make life a little easier when we move into the case. And with that, I've got myself a pretty complete motherboard assembly, just those extra 2 RAM DIMMs left before it's properly complete. However, I'm very excited for the next part of this build. For the case today, I've gone for something a little bit different. And I've got to give a big shout out to Haven for sending out their brand new HS420 vGPU. I first saw this case back at Computex, and I have to say, it's a bit of a beast. And I think maybe the best way to take a look at it is to take it out of the box in quite an unceremonious fashion. Come on, there we go. Oh, yes, yes. Very heavy, very heavy. Yep. That actually wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it might be, but this is a little bit interesting. Now, it's a dual chamber PC case, and quite a large one at that, but one that comes from a brand new brand that's had quite a lot of backing and seems to have quite a few experienced people behind it. Now, not only have you got this insanely tight radius curved tempered glass panel that really helps to minimize distortion at the curve. It's not the first case to do this, but it is one of the first to do so with such a tight radius. It's available in 2 different models, a vertical GPU and non-vertical GPU derivative. And what's actually quite interesting about this particular kit is that the vGPU bracket is actually PCI Gen 5, which fits perfectly with the X870 motherboard in this build. Now, the case is meant to be pretty toolless, however, you will find some screws installed as standard at the beginning, and they say that's just to protect it during shipping. So let me go ahead and get all the panels off and then show you a little bit more what this case is all about. Once I've taken these out, you'll see, I mean, that is quite heavy. However, to Haven's word, it's toolless, and I feel like I really need to be careful at how tight that radius is on the glass. Would be interesting to see how strong and durable it is, but I'm not going to particularly try and find out. Instead, I'm going to put it somewhere safe. Now, down the bottom of the case, we've got what looks to be, yes, 140mm fan mounts, and these are actually for intake, which are designed specifically, I believe, to cool the GPU. You can see the PCI Gen 5 riser cable is already pre-installed with the bracket, which is nice, as well as this Simply cable system, which actually adapts a standard rubber grommet and gives it these vertical lines with adjustable brackets. Now, the idea here is once we've got our motherboard extension cables in, these are actually going to clamp the cables together and stop that thing happening where you put through a grommet, the cable falls down to the bottom, and it should just make the whole build a lot more controllable. You can see on the side here, we've got room for storage, we've got room for 420mm or 360mm rads at the top. I'm going to be going 360 in this build today, and all in all, a build quality that feels really quite nice. It does lack BTF motherboard support. That was more of a concern for me a few weeks ago, and then X870 landed, and well, there aren't any back to front motherboards or Project Zero or Project Stealth that I can see, so maybe not so much of an issue after all. I might go ahead and remove the vertical GPU GPU mount first, A, to take a closer look at it, and B, to make installing the motherboard hopefully a bit more simple. As far as installing the motherboard goes, there is a nice little letter which leads you to the accessory kit. Now this has got a few things, including an internal VESA mount for an aftermarket screen, pair of large Haven branded anti-static gloves. These aren't really necessary, but if we're going to start an ASMR channel, maybe I would use them. And aha, this is the bag of screws that we need to install the motherboard and the SSD and everything else. These are already very, very warm and are definitely not staying on for the rest of the video. Absolutely not happening. I'm glad to see that despite all of the fancy tricks in this case, they have got the basics right. We've got raised standoffs at the top and the middle, which will hold the motherboard in nicely while I screw it down. Of course, 3 screws at the top in this case, 3 along the middle and 3 down at the bottom. Now it is a pretty large chassis all in all, so there is going to be a lot of dead space unless we fill it with the right fans or the right water cooling, and who knows, maybe I'll do a custom loop in this build, in this case a bit later on. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments down below. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop, I think, the PSU in first. I'm going to use the Cooler Master GX3 850. Now this is an 80 plus gold ATX3 PCI Gen 5 unit. As I say, I've got some white cable extensions, so the actual colour of the power supply does not matter. I'm going to go and pop this into the bottom. I am going to run all the cable extensions at this stage as well. I'll link these ones down below. These are from a company called Linkle. I normally get Easy DIY Fab, but I couldn't find white ones with a Gen 5 cable. That may have changed now, so I'll link that alongside everything else down in the description below. Also a good idea to do all the front panels at this stage, so USB 3, Type A and Type C, JFP1 front panel audio. Get all of those cables done and out the way, and that's going to make life a little bit easier. In terms of the radiator, I've gone for the Corsair H150i IQ Link, and this is the LCD version. It is very pricey, but again, it's going to look awesome, and that was really the main brief for this bit of the build. You always want to make sure these are really, really nice and tight and evenly tight at that as well. You'd be surprised how many problems in a build in terms of CPU temperatures and cooling can actually be solved by ensuring that the CPU cooler is torqued nice and tight. Just do it evenly so you're not putting undue pressure on any portion of the CPU at once, but you want to fully screw thread all of these thumb screws on each corner of the CPU cooler and make sure you're all good to go. And next up, I'm going to do fans as well. So I'm going to remove a couple of these extra panels, which, yes, they are toolless, but again, they've got those safety shipping screws on. Pull the panel off. Now, in order to install the back fan, I do need to take this bracket out, which potentially leads me to the first problem with this case. And I generally like the chassis very much, but I do think these screws from the inside, yes, it's just about reachable as things stand, but I don't think that's the world's best layout that I've ever seen. As far as fans are concerned, there is room for 140s at the back and 140s at the bottom. I've only got 440 mils though, so I might pop these on the bottom 3 and then actually add 120s to the rear and 120s to the side. I'm using these Corsair QX140s, the reason being they look great from both a reverse and a front profile. You're increasingly now we're seeing fans with reverse blade options too, but these are a little bit more flexible as you can use them in either orientation and they still look good. Now what's quite clever about this is once you've taken a few screws out, these storage bays actually just slide out, and these are what you could go ahead and pop a hard drive into, or in my case you could actually use this for fans, or I guess you could probably use this for a bit of both. I'm going to go for a trio of Corsair 120mm RX fans on the side to give us that little bit more air intake. Hopefully they'll look big enough in the case. I'm thinking they will. I'm then going to return into place this vertical GPU riser. Now, what I would suggest is actually getting the riser portion plugged in to the motherboard to get that nice and tight, then go ahead and secure the riser metal bracket into place. And you can see why it makes sense to do all the cables and stuff beforehand. So that's looking pretty good. And all is missing now, bar of course wiring all the fans up, which shouldn't be too difficult, is the GPU. By the looks of things, this is a 2-slot card, and this riser is, well, up to 4 slots in total. It's a learning process if you're following along for yourself. Get your PCI brackets adjusted before popping the riser into place. Pull that out. And yet, I think screwing these at this stage makes a lot more sense. Slide the graphics card kind of into place. Aha, there we go, yeah. Get these torqued with your screwdriver, then slide the graphics card in. This is kind of nuts. And then I can also show you this adjustable bracket, which allows you, once installed, I believe, to slide the GPU forwards and backwards. That's going to account for things like memory clearance. I'm going to go a little bit more forward, in fact, right to the front before tightening this up. Wow, wow, wow. Now, Haven do include this air duct, which they say will help to channel the air in a better way. And as you can see, that would kind of fit. I think the idea is to kind of push the air up to the front of the GPU rather than necessarily getting it behind. Maybe that'll fit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you build a gaming PC. That looks a lot better than I thought it was gonna look. And I'm gonna hazard a guess, it's gonna look sensational when it's turned on. So I'm gonna take a little longer before the benchmarks today and let you enjoy this in all of its glory. So there we have it. I think it looks amazing when it's all powered up. And before I tell you about my final thoughts on the build, what I think went wow, what I think could perhaps be improved, let's look at performance. And start off, shall we, with a bit of Apex Legends. At 4K high settings, the build pulled in over 200 frames per second on average, with 207 FPS. This is super competitive at 4K, and of course, if you wanted to push that frame rate higher, you could drop down to 1440p too. It's running at 4K behind me, and it looks absolutely amazing. The gameplay we captured is awesome, and of course, the 4080 Super and 7800X3D having no problems here. In Hogwarts Legacy next up, we again tested at that all-important 4K high settings preset. Here, the build again did really well. 75 frames per second on average was really not too shabby. The build pretty quiet, pretty cool running under load as well, and of course 4K, the game looks amazing. In Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K with ray tracing and frame generation and the high settings preset overall, the game looks, I mean, just look at it, absolutely incredible. Frame rates in the region of 90 FPS on average. Really pleased with this game, and it's an area where a high-end card like the 4080 Super really excels. In Warzone next up, again running at 4K over 130 FPS with 137 frames to be precise at 4K. Again, if you want even more competitive esports frame rates, you know, the 300 mark, you've got scope to drop down that resolution. But this is a build designed for gaming at that high res. For me, that's where the visual experience is best, and there's enough frame rate here to keep this thing competitive enough for my liking. But what about you guys? Let me know what your kind of frame rate target is for games like this in the comments below. Moving through into a bit of Alan Wake 2, here tested at 4K high with frame generation enabled and of course ray tracing on too. We're trying to get the worst case scenario on the frame rate and also get the best possible visual experience. Here, Alan Wake 2 did really well. 75 FPS on average, nearly 76 frames all told at 4K, which I again was really pleased with. If frame rate's what you're after though, check out Fortnite. 1080p competitive settings here delivered some unbelievable frame rates, over 390 frames per second in what is undoubtedly a game where maximum frame rate is of most importance, and it's a title that, let's face it, is always going to be pretty easy to run on a 4080 Super and a 7800X3D. You guys just always like me to test it, so here are the results. In Black Myth Wukong, we actually saw the worst result of the day, but still pretty good. This is 4K high with DLSS enabled, frame generation turned on, ray tracing on the medium preset, and it pulled in around about 69 FPS on average. Being more of an RPG open world title, you're not really so bothered about getting that triple digit frame rate. 60, 70 is going to be totally fine. It's obviously a brand new AAA title too, so something that's going to really stress the build, which explains the outcome really of a paltry 69 FPS. It's still pretty decent for me and a good number like that. Star Wars Outlaws wraps up the suite though, 4K high. Again, we've turned a bit of ray tracing, a bit of DLSS frame generation on. A game that has proved quite hard to run for lots of builds, well over the 100 FPS mark in this build. 107 frames per second though, all told, which I was really pleased with. But what do I actually think of this build? What do I think of how it turned out, the case, things I could have done better. Now, I think I probably could have gone for some more 140mm fans, especially down the right-hand side. I think that would have filled out the case a little bit better. I'd like to see Haven bring perhaps their own fans too. I did find it a little bit clunky, the process of installing the rear fans and how that mount releases. And while I do like some of the accents on the case, I would like to see a fully all-white version where even some of the grommets are white in colour too. The build though I think is really good. Absolutely, this is a system where you're going to want to wait for lots of people for what NVIDIA announced at CES. We're expecting a 5080 and a 5090 potentially too, but I hope this paves the way for some of the high-end builds we could see in the future. And I actually think it's one of our most aesthetically pleasing systems ever. Let me know what you guys think though with a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.